If you are a sacred submissive, here's what I know about you. You were not designed to live an ordinary life. There's nothing usual or typical about you, about your desires, about the way you think about relationships, about the way you think about your relationship, not just to people, but to your career, to yourself, and to life itself. And being a sacred sub can be really confusing. Often, my clients were drawn into the world of DS and submission because there is a certain pull that world has that really appeals to us. And it's really the only thing in our current culture that speaks to our desires and our need to live profoundly, to live intuitively, and to interact with others on a very articulated and intentional level. So there's a lot about every piece of what I just said. But in general, as an opener, there are three main aspects of sacred submission that we are all going for. And these three things, this is where we see the threads in the things we're attracted to. So I'll go through each of these really briefly. The first one is around sensuality. And so we want to live very embodied lives because to live in surrender, part of that is to really have a deep connection to your body, to your pleasure, and to connecting with the world through your senses. It's about really living in the now and living in your body, not thinking about the past or the future or worrying, but really being present to what is. And that includes your sensations and your emotions. So I talk a lot about sacred sensuality as one of our main pillars. And that's what I'm talking about. It's the full scope of sensuality. Again, our culture tends to pigeonhole sensuality into bedroom only activities. And even when you say pleasure, we think about bedroom only activities. And that is such a tiny, tiny part of what sensuality is. So think about all of your five senses. That's the way that we take in information and the way that we interact outwardly with the world. So when I talk about living into your sacred sensuality, it's around living into your physical lived experiences, what you taste, what you see, what you touch, and also your internal emotional state, how you feel. This is the realm of pleasure and pain. So given that scope around sacred sensuality, you can look into your life and say, what books or activities or movies or things, maybe even like yoga or body work or massage or tantra, all of these things were gateways into this bigger world of sacred sensuality, which is at the heart of what you are looking to create in your life. So that's the first one. The second one is sacred service. Whether it's in a DS context and relationship, and you think about service as service to your dominant, it's really about being of impact and living a life of purpose that's calling to you. And this can be expressed in so many different ways. Obviously, it can be expressed in your relationship. But if you just pigeonhole it into your relationship, it will become too much for that relationship. And this is often where we start getting into, I'm too much for any dominant that I've ever tried to be with. I want to surrender deeper or more profoundly, and I don't know how to get there in my relationship. And part of that is because you are trying to take all of this desire to be of service and filter it into this one person in the case of a relationship. And that's not going to work. It's too much. Your beingness and your surrender is too much for another human being. It's meant to be of service to the world. It's meant to be of service to life. And you can put different labels on this. You can call it God or goddess or the universe or energy, whatever. It's to be of service to the greater and to be guided by the greater, which is what that sacred service piece is all about. And then the last piece is possibly the one that tends to be the most confusing and maybe the least talked about, but it's in there in the things that you are attracted to. So this final third piece is sacred summoning. And this is the ability to manifest into form everything that you desire. And this piece of it, you may be attracted to things like magic, Wicca, fantasy, anything that has that element of there is some kind of power in this world that I feel that is considered woo-woo or is put into a negative light. Maybe you have even psychic abilities. Maybe you read tarot. Maybe you are attracted to spell work. Maybe you're just attracted to things like meditation and deep, deep spiritual work. All of this is within that realm of sacred summoning, and that's what's been calling to you. So using these three pillars as a guide, you have sacred sensuality, sacred service, and sacred summoning. These are the hearts, if you want, the heartbeats of your entire sacred, submissive, sacred, surrendered experience of being alive. And as you can imagine, when you start living into all three of these, it does create a life that looks incredibly different than what the normal life would have you create. That normal life that often leaves us feeling really drained, really bored, really edgy, burnt out, superficial, you name it. It leaves us just feeling depleted. And often we don't know why. But we do know what we're attracted to. And like I said, oftentimes what we're attracted to are the hints of all three of these categories, right? They're the hints of leading us down a path of greater sensuality and embodiment, or leading us down a path of greater service and purpose, or leading us down a path of greater magic, greater ability to create in a way that's nonlinear, to create in a way that's not the typical do, force, push, right? It just feels more surrendered, right? It feels more open, more magnetic, more receiving. And there's something in all of that that feels really natural to us. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. If this is calling to you, then I highly suggest that you DM me, because I have so many programs and ways of teasing this apart and ways of working through this that I know can help you dive into any of these three aspects, all of these three aspects. Ideally, as you grow, as you go along this path of sacred surrender, you end up strengthening all three of these within yourself. And I have a way of doing that. We use archetypes to do that. We use practices to do that. And they're all in alignment with all three of these. So if you're feeling really called to explore this work, to explore this path, and to go down a road, go on a journey, whatever you want to call it, that is just fantastical and nuanced and intelligent and just different. So different than what the normal path would have you do. Please reach out to me because we are meant to talk. All of my work helps other sacred submissives do this for themselves, bloom into this incredible person and create this truly magnificent life that is your birthright. If you're being called to this, it's very specific, right? Not everybody is going to even come close to resonating with what I am saying. They'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That is not why I am into the lifestyle. There's layers to this. But if this is resonating, it's time for us to connect. And it's time for you to start moving down that path. And if now is not the time, that's okay too. I have so much more information to share with you in this series. So stick around, DM me on Instagram if you would like to connect, and I will see you in our next episode. Bye for now.